Welcome to RSCH, Research Methods and Biostatistics, a 3-credit graduate course offered by Drexel University College of Nursing and Health Professions. A research framework provides the logical structure guiding the development of a study. A framework also helps the researcher to link study findings back to an existing body of knowledge. While frameworks are always used in quantitative studies, they may also be used in qualitative studies. Initially a philosophy, then subsequently a theory consistent with the philosophy is developed as a study outcome. Researchers are increasingly demanding that frameworks be included as an integral component to research. To understand research frameworks, one must be familiar with the philosophy of science. The main concern of the philosophy of science is the nature of scientific knowledge. 3 giants of philosophy of science are Michel Foucault, Thomas Kuhn, and Karl Popper. Michel Foucault, 1926 to 1984, was a French philosopher, historian of ideas, and social theorist. A prolific writer, Foucault published landmark studies that included explications on power and power displacement, domination and social structures, and power and knowledge. Thomas Kuhn, best known for his 1962 book, The Structure of Scientific Revolutions, challenged views of progress in normal science with his disruptive concept of anomalies, new ideas leading to new paradigms during periods of revolution in science. Lastly, Karl Popper, 1902 to 1994, was a philosopher and professor who rejected classical induction views of scientific method in favor of empirical falsification, a notion that a theory in empirical science cannot be proven but can be falsified. The word concept, a term involved in research frameworks, is abstractly describes and names an object, phenomenon, an idea. The language provides it with meaning. At high levels of abstraction, concepts have general meaning and are frequently termed constructs. Think of 3 levels as follows. First, concrete term is a variable, implying measurement. Second, concept is an abstract term. Third, construct is a term of very high abstraction. Often one can think of a construct as being composed of less abstract concepts. The next slide provides a display of these words. Think of emotional responses as a construct, complex, abstract. One concept embedded in the construct emotional responses is anxiety, also an abstract idea, but less complex than the construct emotional responses. The concept anxiety can be measured by the variable palmar sweating, a concrete and measurable physical sign. In summary, think of the word healthy. Healthy is denotatively defined as beneficial, functioning well, having or showing or producing good health. Healthy is conceptually connotatively associated with images of the concept healthy, wholesomeness, attractive freshness, etc. Research frameworks refer to concepts and variables. These are the building blocks of research. Variables used in research need to be defined both conceptually and operationally. Perhaps one of the best known concepts is that of stress. Conceptually defined by Hans Selye is a non-specific response of organisms to negative influences. Stress has widespread uses, including physical responses as well as mental and emotional responses. Operationally, stress can be measured by several physical parameters and by self-report. Variables must be operationally defined in order for statistical analyses to be conducted. Charette et al. In 2015 were interested in postoperative pain and anxiety reported by adolescents after surgery to correct scoliosis. The figure on this slide is a visual representation of their research framework. They developed an intervention that combined guided imagery, relaxation, and education to decrease postoperative pain and anxiety in these patients. In this slide, the box on the left illustrates simple statements of relationships among spiritual perspective, social support, and coping. The dotted arrow indicates a relationship about which less is known. The box on the right provides language and diagrammatic forms of a more complex statement among the previous concepts, with the addition of perceived stress. Please review this material in your textbook on pages 143 to 147. Daly examined the relationships among social stressors, a broad construct, personal resources, another broad construct, and perinatal risk factors, a third broad construct, and infant birth outcomes. Daly's research then examined relationships among specific concepts within each of the broad constructs and infant birth weight. For social stressors, discrimination, trauma, and socioeconomic status were identified. For personal resources, spirituality and social support were identified. And for perinatal risk factors, substance abuse, lack of perinatal care, and medical conditions were explored. Each of these concepts was treated as a variable with specific measurements to ensure reliable and valid operational definitions. For example, trauma was operationally defined as the subject's score on the Trauma History Questionnaire. The heart or core of a research framework is the relational statement. A relational statement declares that a relationship of some kind exists between or among two or more concepts. If constructed well, relational statements lead to a well-designed study. Objectives, questions, hypotheses, design, statistical analysis, and anticipated findings evolve from the study's relational statements. Relational statements are posited in one of several possible directions. In a linear relationship, the relationship between the two concepts or variables remains consistent regardless of the values of the concepts, that is, irrespective of a positive, a negative, or an unknown direction. In a positive linear relationship, as the value of one concept changes, the value of the other concept changes in a similar fashion. In a negative linear relationship, as the value of one concept changes, the value of the other concept changes in an opposite fashion. In a curvilinear relationship, the relationship between the two concepts varies according to the relative values of the concepts. Some relationships are unknown, even though a relationship is believed to exist. This slide illustrates three possible directions of relational statements. That is, positive, as one concept changes, the second concept will change in the same direction. Negative, as one concept changes, the second concept will change in the opposite direction. And unknown, that is, the nature of the relationship between the two concepts is unknown. Concepts are building blocks of theories. Concepts can vary in their level of abstraction. At high level of abstraction, the concepts naturally cluster together in a phrase construct. This scatter plot of the relationship between x and y illustrates a positive linear relationship. As x increases, the value of y increases in a similar fashion. Anxiety presents an interesting curvilinear relationship with performance. A person's performance is enhanced in the presence of low to moderate anxiety. However, as anxiety increases to high levels, performance decreases. Relational statements may be symmetric or asymmetric. An asymmetric relationship indicates that if A occurs, then B will occur. However, this is not an indication that if B occurs, then A will occur. A symmetrical relationship indicates that if A occurs, then B will occur. And if B occurs, then A will occur. Time, that is sequencing, is another factor to consider in understanding relational statements. If both concepts or variables occur simultaneously, then the relationship is concurrent. Depression predicting pathological eating habits is an example of a sequential relationship. In a concurrent relationship, if A exists, then B also exists. A, then B also. Relaxation is accompanied by a decrease in BP, as an example. This presentation was prepared for graduate nursing students at Drexel University College of Nursing and Health Professions. The primary book in this research course is The Practice of Nursing Research, Appraisal, Synthesis, and Generation of Evidence, 2017 edition, by Jennifer R. Gray, Susan K. Grove, and Suzanne Sutherland. This book is published by Elsevier Saunders, St. Louis, Missouri.